conceptual perspective to view things. People talk about it as everything success, all of the elements.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace rapping in on you. I hope that you have had a blessed and prosperous week, despite whatever challenges you may have faced. I hope that you have entered into today with some high expectations of what you will achieve, what you will accomplish, what you will experience, the impact that you will have on the lives of other people. Remember, life is about service. Life is about what type of impact you have on the world, not what you accumulate, not the things you earn, even though they may be well deserved and there's nothing wrong with them. You're going to ultimately either achieve fulfillment or not based off of how you impact the lives of other people. So even the blessings are meant for you to be in a better position to be a blessing. And on that note, I'm going to move on. As always, there are some resources in the description box, everything from copies of the latest books to new courses and an opportunity to work with yours truly in a one-on-one capacity. That is my passion. I love public speaking. I love being an author, a published author, and all the work that I've been able to do across multiple spectrums in that sense. I love, teaching courses, but the one-on-one encounters are amazing. And there's one client that I have now who's a platinum client, and we've been working together for a while. And obviously, I'm not going to mention their name, but they hit me up and they were talking about how they woke up this morning with gratitude and how powerful the force of gratitude is, and how it drives out darkness and despair and depression. And they were talking about how much it amazes them that they spent so much of their lives in a depressed state. And right there in front of them was an opportunity to be grateful and have gratitude, and that what gratitude does for them. And it sort of spontaneously set me on the course of what I'm going to attempt to convey to you this morning. The title says, Be Anxious for Nothing. And the subtopic is the power and force of gratitude. I've learned some things about gratitude in a world where depression is on the rise. You got everybody, talking about feeling down and depressed. There's so much going on that can put you in a state of despair, a state of darkness, a state of uncertainty and fear, and it can lead to clinical depression. And the one thing that I have discovered that is so amazing to me, and it's why I literally choose to be grateful and establish a heart of gratitude at the start of every day. I've learned that there's so much power in gratitude. There's so much you gain in gratitude. But what I've learned even more is there are just certain things that cannot exist when you're grateful. And one of them is depression. You can't be in a state of gratitude and be angry. You can't be in a state of gratitude and be in a moment of despair. You can't be in a state of gratitude and feel down and desperate and in despair and depressed. When you are in a state of gratitude, you have chosen to see the beauty in your life despite a dark moment. There's so much power in that. See, those momentary afflictions are just that. They're for a moment. And when you see them as being momentary, and when you understand that darkness is not uh, indefinite, and when you understand that trouble don't last always, when you understand that there's a moment in which you're coming out of your pit of despair, that you can sit up and be grateful for all that has happened in your life, that you are thankful for. Be grateful for the fact that trouble don't last always, that no matter where I'm at right now, I can come out of it, and I'm going to come out with my hands held high in victory, because I am persistent, I am committed, I refuse to give in and let go. There's something about gratitude that shakes off the weight of depression, that shakes off the weight of darkness. There's something about being grateful that opens up the gates of bounty, benefit, and benevolence of God and everything that is in the universe that is good for you. When you learn how to be grateful, even in the times where it's hard to see it, you got to find it. Because what will happen if you start complaining? The things to complain about multiply. When you start to complain, you go from complaining about one thing, and then there's two, and then there's four, and then there's eight, and you're wondering, where is it all coming from? You lay down your gratitude to give attention to your situation. And see, I operate in a business where I don't get to have a bad day. See, my entire business is based off of what people get from me in videos like this, in articles that I write, in things that I do. See, if I'm going to get booked for something, if I'm going to have somebody buy a book, if I'm going to have somebody sign up for a course, they got to resonate with me and the things I do on a daily basis. So when I have bad days and I can't show up, or if I show up and my energy's low and it can be seen, it affects my ability to do what I do. So I have to find a way, no matter how I'm feeling, no matter what I'm going through. It's not that everything's always grand. It's not that everything's always great. It's that I have learned how to be grateful regardless. And in the gratitude that I have, I see God's presence in my life. This is not a religious thing. This is me talking about how I get through. And you have to have that relationship with God, however you see God, because if you don't, it's going to be hard to understand the dynamics and the principles of how you get through, because they're going to be so much beyond your normal understanding. You've got to have a way of dealing with God on on a personal level. Whatever you do in a group or organizational setting is your business, but what you're going to get the most traction out of is the one-on-one thing. It's that. But anyway, I don't get to have that bad day. When I have a bad day, it shows up in my bottom line. It shows up in the confidence of the people I work with that they have in me. So I don't get to have that bad day. It doesn't mean I don't have them. It means that I don't get to allow them to impact me. I have to find a way to hold on to my gratitude and to be grateful, because if I put it down and I start to complain, it starts this it starts this downward cascade of more problems and more situations. It doesn't mean that they aren't there and I'm not facing or dealing with something at any given moment. It means that I trust and believe in God. I trust and believe in my capacity. I trust and believe in my direction and my purpose enough to know that if I stay the course, if I stand, if I continue to believe and push and I don't quit, I win. Now, I want to talk to you. I'm gonna open up with a scripture. This is not church. If you want to deal with it like church, if that's how you want to deal with it, I'm roll with me on it. If church bothers you, I want you to take principle in mind. See, we tend to push stuff away because of where we are in a certain part of our life and understanding of where we be. Or maybe we're disenfranchised with an idea. Maybe we are upset and we miss the message. See, the message and the principles are eternal. And so don't get caught up in any idea. I use it because it's powerful, and it's the way that I've always taught. But check this out. There's something that is very destructive in the desire to move forward and the desire to rise, and that's the physical response to uncertainty and fear, and it's called anxiety. And there is a demand in the Bible, and Paul talks about it in his letter to the church in Philippi. And it says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything with prayer and supplication, but in everything with prayer and supplications, but it doesn't stop there. It says, and thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. There's so much psychology, sociology, and universal law of attraction and everything else in that. They gave it a new name, and it's turned some people off. And then some people have gotten onto it, and religion has been turned off. But God is fluent. God can't be boxed in. I don't care what it is and how you come to define him, or what religion you come to define God through. You can't box God in. God's too big for any box you can think of in your mind. What does that mean? When you get the greatest idea of what God is, you haven't come close. The greatest theological mind ever known has not come close to understanding the capacity and the wide expanse of the power and the knowledge of God, and the ability and the fluency at which God operates. It's unthinkable. The way that I do it when I'm teaching my students is this. You say, okay, just one attribute of God out of the 10 primary attributes of God. It's God's omniscience, meaning that God knows all things. But see, when you start to break that down, so it's easy to say God knows all things. It's easy to say God knows everything past, present, and future. But no, when you sit up and say everything that has ever happened, God knows. Everything that is happening, God knows. Everything that is of future presence, God knows. But see, that isn't all that God knows. See, all those questions that you ask yourself as you move through life, and you start to look back on what has happened in your life, and you sit up and you say, man, I wonder what would have happened if I would have. God knows. God doesn't have to calculate it. God doesn't have to figure it out. God knows. See, there's a difference in the intelligence, but there's a knowing. That's an all-knowing. God knows. And see, since God knows all things, God has the answer. And if God has the answer and you're connected to God, what are we anxious about? I want you to work with me now. I want you to work with me. I want to get your understanding of what this thing says. It says, be anxious for nothing. See, there's no profitability in your anxiousness. There's no profitability in being anxious. There's nothing you gain out of being anxious. There's nothing that you gain from the anxiousness, but it says in everything through prayer and supplication. See, the prayer is the communication. The supplication is the request. And thanksgiving. You got to be thankful. That's where that gratitude comes in. See, I'm not going to God at any point in time complaining about anything, because I understand that if I'm going through it, I've been built for it, and I'm going to come out better than when I went in. It's a part of process. I've gotten used to it. So it's never about complaining. It's never about why am I going through? It's about sitting up and saying, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm requesting. I'm requesting the endurance. I'm requesting the power. I'm requesting the understanding. I'm sending out a request for the answers. When Gabriel came to Daniel in chapter 10 of the book of Daniel, Daniel had been praying for an answer for 3 weeks. 21 days, had been fasting and praying. And for Daniel, that was a long time, because Daniel had this direct line to God that he was able to immediately dissect and understand visions and dreams. And he was having a problem with one, and he waited for 3 weeks. And the beautiful thing is when Gabriel showed up, now I say Gabriel because Gabriel is considered to be the messenger of God. And this was a message. And Gabriel shows up, and he immediately tells Daniel, man dearly beloved of God, from the moment that you set your heart to understand, your words were heard. From the moment that you set your heart to understand. See, you didn't get the answer, but God was already working on it. The answer was on its way. There are some things that you are seeking answers on right now that you don't know the answer to yet, but the answers are speeding their way to you, and they always arrive on time. But see, Urgency urgency as a state of mind creates anxiety. See, you feel you need it right now, but God has that knowing that I just told you about to know exactly when it's going to best suit you. It says, with prayer and thanksgiving, make your prayers and thanksgiving, make your requests known unto God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. The peace of God, which surpasses, meaning that you can't fathom it. It's beyond your ability to reason it, but it has purpose. Will guard your hearts and minds. Now, this is where it gets great. When it talks about hearts and minds in the Bible, it's not talking about the physiological heart. It's not talking about that. The Greek word cardia is where we get cardiovascular and all that, and we talk about physiological elements of the heart. But the heart, as an organ, is actually taken from this ancient term, which meant the center, the most powerful force, that dynamic force. It's actually, if we were to describe it in today's common vernacular, would be your subconscious. The thing that controls 96% of your decision making, 96% of your behavior, 96% of your outcomes. It's the center of the soul, your subconscious. It's the thing that it is constantly processing information that your conscious mind is not even aware of. But see, it says God guards that and the conscious mind. The mind is in Greek nous, and it is the conscious mind, the part that perceives, the part that plays a guardian of the subconscious. But the beautiful thing is there's ways around that. When the conscious mind doesn't have the right attitude, you can still download a new way of thinking in the subconscious, and the subconscious will begin to behave based off of the new thinking. See, guard your hearts and minds. But see, I want to tell you something. There's this thing called emotion. We misunderstand it, we mishandle it, we misuse it. There is a thing where you need to understand. See, I see emotion as being this powerful force when it's properly used, has unlimited potential. See, energy and motion is emotion. And energy and emotion gives you a feeling. When you have an emotional experience, there's a feeling attached to it. The feeling is going to be what drives you. That's how the body and the mind work together. See, it produces a feeling, and then you can sit up, and what happens with a lot of people is they get into a habit of a way of thinking. They create a way of thinking that produces a certain level of energy, and then you have this motion that's constantly at play attached to the energy, and you get this feeling. Now, a lot of times that thought creates energy and motion that creates a negative feeling like anger and jealousy and worry and anxiety. And what happens is there's a feeling associated with it. And at first it feels uneasy. At first it's very uncomfortable. But what happens, like any other chemical producing situation, which is happening, you're literally creating a chemical that's making the body feel that way. You know, the same way you're creating a feeling and release of dopamine when the body's on a high and feeling great. You're creating these feelings, and the hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are flowing through your stream, and they're meant for short-term stress responses, like you're in a dangerous situation and you need to get out, or you need to react quickly because a car jumps in front of you. That's a stress response. The moment you miss the car and you get back in line, everything starts supposed to come back in and start settling down. But that stress response, or that fight or flight response, starts to hang around on a regular basis when you're experiencing anxiety and worry and chronic stress. And then what happens? The body actually becomes addicted to the chemical reality associated with that feeling, because you're feeling it all the time. So now the body wakes up demanding the feeling. It doesn't see it as bad or good. It sees it as the normal. And what the normal is, the body's going to demand the norm. So if the body is constantly in a state of stress, it's going to demand something that keeps it in stress. So what do? You go out mentally looking for it from a subconscious level, things that will stress you out. You go out and find things to worry about. You go out and find. See, the problem is when you have this emotion, what you focus on is what you feel and experience. You're literally manifesting something to worry about because your body is demanding it because you have been there so long. So how do you do it? You've got to change what you focus on. How do you do it? Oh, see, Paul didn't stop at verse 6 when he says, be anxious for nothing. And he tells you what to do. He says, check this out. He says, finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. Put your focus of thought on the positive things, not the negative things, because what you focus on, you feel. Stay with me, stay with me. So what most people get this thing wrong is they try to say, I don't want. But see, when you say I don't want, let me give you something. If I tell you whatever you do in the next 60 seconds, do not visualize a pink poodle with a black bow tie. How many people watching this video live or after just visualized a pink poodle with a black bow tie? Saying what you don't want doesn't work because the focus still goes on the problem. See, you don't come out of problems by focusing on problems. You come out of problems by focusing on solutions. Whatever things are noble, whatever things are pure, whatever things are just, whatever things are of good report, whatever things are praiseworthy, meditate on the good stuff. Meditate on the things that stand as a reason for you to be grateful. Meditate on things that put you in a position to succeed, to put you in a position to overcome. Meditate on these things. What are you meditating on? What are you focusing on? What you got to understand is when you're thinking, you're creating. God gave you that power. You got to understand everything that you see right now, everything that you see came from something unseen. The airplane came from an idea. The cell phone came from an idea. The lights that you have in your office, in your home that are on right now came from an idea. The internet came from an idea. Everything that you can see and touch it and operate through came from nothing that was not seen. It was, and it says, call those things that are not as though they were. You got to start speaking to your subconscious consistently what you want and not what you don't want. You got to manifest through the power of emotion put in play intentfully. Too many of us are being drugged around by reactions. We are reactive in the way we deal with life. We are reactive to bad news. We are reactive to bad situations. We are reactive to bad circumstances. We've got to become proactive. I'm going to take an active role in navigating and narrating my future by what I think about consistently throughout the day. What I focus on, I feel. What I feel, I manifest. It's that simple. You've got to understand that in this, there is a science. See, we got the spiritual or mystical element of a lot of stuff that we read in the Bible. We often believe because we were told that it couldn't be scientifically backed up, that we couldn't venture off into the understanding of it. But now we have the understanding of it that yes, our thoughts emit energy. Not only do they emit energy, that energy has the ability to trigger chemicals that create a unique feeling in the body that will make the body yearning if it experiences it enough. It consistently becomes the norm. Because, in other words, I have a thought process that I go through. Whenever anxiety tries to creep up on me, whenever frustration and stress starts to try to creep up on me, I have a practice of thought that reels me in, lowers my heart rate, brings me to a place where I start to release dopamine instead of cortisol. And it has become the norm. So now the body demands that I find a reason to be in this state because that's what the body is used to. It has become the norm. My body is addicted to peace. Y'all ain't listening. My body is addicted to peace. So even in the midst of adverse situations, my body says, I want peace. I don't want to hear about all the stressful stuff. I want to hear peace. My body's used to confidence. So I want to hear of how we're going to overcome all this crap. I don't want to hear about how it's negatively impacting us. I want to hear about what we have inside of us to overcome this, Rick. Don't give me all of the rundown of the bad stuff. Talk about the power. Talk about the relationship with God. Talk about the answers on the way. Talk about how we've always overcome. Give me something that brings me peace. That's the place I want to operate in. That's where me and you're going to work this thing out. Do you realize to experience? Hey, Kim, glad to see you showed up. I was actually just inspired and talked by something we shared earlier. But anyway, that thing, that thing, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, through prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, make your requests known unto God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And whatever your faith says, you've got to have a direct connection with God that brings you a sense of peace. See, my thing is, you can't say that God's all powerful, God's all knowing, God is benevolent and loving, God is omnipotent and all of these things, and then in the same breath speak of fear, disquietude, disruption, and uncertainty, as if you don't have a direct relationship with the very source, as if it's not within you, as if you don't have it coursing through your veins and in every molecular makeup of who you are. You've given so much gravity to the circumstance that you can't even be ready to receive the solution. Do you realize that the things in life that you seek, the things you yearn for, the things that you desire, are actually actively and effectively seeking you? There's a book that I absolutely love written by Paulo Coelho called The Alchemist, by a Spanish kid named Santiago that goes on this journey, ends up in Egypt and in the desert and pursuing something. And the common theme of the book is that when you become aware of something in your mind that you desire, and you make up in your mind that it's possible, and you start to move toward it, the universe has no alternative or option but to conspire with you to bring it to you. So as you believe in the solution, as you believe in the possibility, as you believe in elevation, as you believe in prosperity and productivity, as you believe that your ability to impact is improving, and you start to move towards these things that you yearn for, you seek, and you desire, that and you have taken it in your mind that it belongs to you and you're moving toward it, the universe has to respond in likeness. In other words, that's how faith operates. Faith says it's possible and I'm going to get it. And the universe says, I'm bringing it to you, meet you halfway. That's the thing that we have to gain an understanding of. That's the thing that we have to be aware of, is that we are literally setting the pace. We are setting the pace. We are creating the future through our expectations. I've told you this for years, that God only meets you at the level of your expectations. God, life, the universe, however you want to talk about it, only meets you at the level of your expectations, never higher. You want to talk about it biblically, we can go to the book of Numbers. I believe we're talking chapter 14. And the Israelites are sitting at Jordan, at the river Jordan, and on the other side is Canaan, the promised land. And they're sitting there, and they sent over spies to check it out, and the spies come back. And when the spies come back, there are 12 spies. 10 of them say it's everything that God said it was, but there's a problem. There are giants over there, and we're like grasshoppers in their sight. They will crush us, and we can't do it. And then there were the other two. There was Joshua and Caleb, and both of them said, we can do it because God has given us this land. It's ours, and we can take it. And the masses took the side and listened to the 10 and didn't listen to Joshua and Caleb. And this is what God had to say to Moses. He says, tell them I have heard their complaints against me. And I personally thought that was interesting, that God took the lack of faith as a complaint against him. Look at me. Look at what I've done for you to this point. And all of a sudden you get to a new challenge and you don't trust what I've already done as a representation of what I'm about to do. So I take that as a personal indictment against my character and my power. It's a complaint. I'm like, well, okay, I'm feeling you. And then he says, tell them, as they have spoken in my hearing, we can't do it, so shall it be. God meets you at the level of your expectations. On that note, I'm not going to push it any further. You have to change your expectations. You have to start with gratitude. It's amazing what gratitude can drive out. I'm not telling you that see, this is here. This is the statement I'm going to end it on. Accept the facts. Accept the facts. But don't you ever confuse the facts with the truth. Some of you are going to get that. Some of you won't. Because see, we've been trained in this world that the facts are the truth. No, the facts are elements that can be seen, evaluated, and understood. The truth is what you make out of it, regardless of the facts. See, the facts will damn one person to a life of suffering, and the same facts will drive another person to achieve unbelievable and extraordinary feats and exploits in this world. Same facts, two different outcomes, two different truths. Gain an understanding there. On that note, I'm going to get out here. As I always say, live your life on full so that you die on E. Don't leave anything undone. Don't leave anything on the table. Take it all and do it. On that note, I'm out of here. Peace.
Here I come, ready or not. Frank Ocean made this record hot.
From a conceptual
Jay sounded better than Jay.
perspective, people talk
Real
about
talk,
it as
I ain't throwing shots. Careful who you